I'm an addict, grateful to be here. My name is Louie. Wow. I just want to stand here and boot this a little bit, you know what I mean? Woo! Wow. My home group is It Works How and Why. Meets every Monday night, 8:30 p.m. in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The format is a speaker on a step and a tradition. And it's my home group because that's how I live my life today, by the steps and the traditions. And I'm real grateful that they allow me to participate in that group, because they can get rid of me at any time they want. Wow. You know, I just want to start off by saying that I am deeply honored, you know, and I want to thank the SFRCNA committee for allowing me to be here, man. You know, to give me this gift and this privilege to talk about the thing that I love the most, and that's Narcotics Anonymous, and then me. Not always necessarily in that order, but I'm deeply grateful. And John, I like the little flowers in the room. Hey, I'm open-minded today, you know. Wow, you know, if a man could be measured by the way he loves, you know, that's one thing. But a man that could be measured by the way he is loved, you know, then I'm a giant. Because I mean, look around. Look what they did to my flag, man. For those of you who don't, you know, I was Roman Catholic. I converted to Judaism in 1981. Thank God I was already circumcised. And I'm Puerto Rican for the South Bronx, for those of you who might confuse me for being Irish. And I live in Davie, Florida. And today I have a pit bull. And I had a truck, but bankruptcy court took that a few months back. Anyway, wow. There's a lot of people here tonight. Thursday night, we're on Biscayne Boulevard. Just a short time ago, I was walking up Biscayne Boulevard selling my ass for a Zoom Zoom and a Yam Yam. You know, here I am, you know, and who would think, here I am, you know, 11 years later, you know, sharing and caring, you know, about the message of Narcotics Anonymous, man. You know, we are truly miracles today. I don't know, I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and she told me that she's known me for 5 years, and that she's never heard my war story. You know, I don't usually talk about how it was out there, because I kind of like got a war story in here. And, you know, been there, done that, did him, did her, you know. And you all know who you are. But I want to talk about what's gone on this last year of my life. I need to say that it's a true miracle that I'm here, and not because of anything. You know, for the two of you that don't know, I'm HIV positive. I have been since February of 1986, but I live by only one disease today, and that's the disease of addiction. Because it's not any virus or any health issues or anything that's going to, you know, kill me. It'll be me using a drug, putting any type of chemical in my system is what's going to knock me dead. And what happened was about a couple of months ago, I caught a case of neuropathy, and real painful, and I went to my neurologist, and he gave me this and told me this, and this man really cared for me, and he sent me to some other infectious disease doctor. And I went to this doctor, and he devastated me. I mean, totally, like, he treated me. I had never felt like I was like a junkie coming in off the street, you know, and he I sat in this office with my wife, and totally, I left there crying. And I had never felt hopelessness or any degradation because I had this particular virus, or even as, being an addict. And, he told me that I needed to get on these 3 medications, and I had questions and concerns about long-term studies, and he said, you don't have to worry about anything long-term, you ain't going to be around. I asked him, well, I'm in pain, can I get some pain medication? He says, with your drug history, I wouldn't give you anything. He said that I have hepatitis A, B, and C, like none of us have it. And he told me, man, you didn't miss anything with drugs, did you? And he really made me feel low. He had brought any self-esteem that I had developed through the years, or any self-worth that I had developed, and he had really shot me down. And what I did was I gave this man the power to do that, and I lost hope. And for the first time in my recovery since July of 1985, man, I totally felt hopeless. And what started to happen was I started to isolate, and I stayed home. And a funny thing about isolating, and a funny thing about pain, that when you're alone, the pain gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And I was on pain medication, and I was on these medications for the virus and this and that, something I had never done in all my years, living with this. And I had forgotten about my disease of addiction. I had forgotten about the steps that have carried me through all these years. And I wouldn't answer the phone. I kept the machine on, and people would call me. I was maybe going to one meeting every 2 weeks. I was in physical pain, but, I could go to meetings, I had no excuses, but I was telling myself that I had to do this, that I had to stay home. And needless to say, my wife was taking all the brunt of all my anger and my rage and my fear and my insecurities. And what started to happen was I had totally lost all hope and faith in the power that has carried me through all these years. The God of my understanding. And real simple, the God of my understanding is Narcotics Anonymous. I got to keep it that simple. I've had many gods in my life, and I'm real grateful for every opportunity that he's given me to get closer to him. I've had the long hair with the beard. I was a Buddhist many years ago. I chanted Nam Myoho Renge Kyo in front of a little wooden box with a scroll for many years. I was born Roman Catholic. I converted to Judaism. I was even a Muslim. One of them couldn't wait to get to Allah and take 2 or 3 people with him. I did it all. Many different forms of religion. Looking for that power greater than myself. I found that power greater than myself in power, property, and prestige. That worked for a lot of years out there. I was a doormat of an exclusive club in New York City, and I had club courtesy where I went, and I had that power, man, and that prestige. Oh, that's Louie from so-and-so. I don't want to endorse the club. And, and that's this, and this is that, and, and I can go wherever I wanted to go, and my disease just, manifested in this, a lot of my active addiction was hustling. I always, hustled a lot. I sold drugs. I sold whatever I could sell. Sales was my thing, and of course, I had to try everything I had to sell because, it had to be good, So, I didn't sell too much, but, I was willing, And so all my life, I lived with all these outside things that I used to fill that void inside of me, and women, perfect example. I always needed that woman on my arm to make me feel good, to validate who I was. I needed that dollar in my pocket. I needed those clothes, to so that you would identify who I was and how I carried myself. And I needed to be the big cocaine cowboy. And and when I was selling acid in the band shell in Central Park, I had the long hair. I was a hippie then. When I was in the Bronx, I was in the gangs, I had we used to call it moñito, we used to do, little moñito, we had it like this, squeezed back, Dixie Peach, and Dixie Peach, huh, Will? Hello! And my disease manifested in all these areas. And when I was a gang bust, I wore the gang colors and the gang clothes. And when I was a hippie, I got rid of the grease and I let my hair grow long. And I sold, acid and loose joints in the band shell at Central Park. preaching peace, love, and happiness, taking all the little girls into the bushes to help them find God, you know. Anything I can do to help you find God, you know. And, you know, gave up the knives and the chains and got out the roses and, you know, and the peace and love and all that other nonsense. You know, I moved to Jackson Heights, Queens, and back in the 70s, Jackson Heights, Queens was the cocaine capital, you know. Wasn't Miami, it was Jackson Heights, Queens. Let's get the story right. And I went there and I met the Colombian guys, you know, they were all about 4'5". And, you know, these guys trusted in me to sell their drugs. You know, they had no second step. And, so, you know, I converted and got rid of the long hair, and now I had that DA. Remember that DA when, you know, for those of us with good hair, that we would blow our hair for 4 or 5 hours, you know, and then, so, because we were going out dancing, you know, and discoing and hustling, and, you know, I'd get all cleaned up, and I'd spend 6, 7 hours in the bathroom licking, you know, Reynolds wraps and all kinds of shit, you know. You know, I was even starting to speak Spanish now, you know, and I gave up the, you know, I was wearing those Shams de Baron shirts with the two-tone, you know, pointy shoes, you know, and the polyester pants with the flares, you know, and, because this disease, man, doesn't know, like a little bit, man. You know, when my disease manifests in every area, it encompasses everything. You know, from the clothing to the atmosphere to where I am to where I, you know, what I do. You know, and I came to Narcotics Anonymous, and my first meeting of Narcotics Anonymous, I shared that I was clean for 10 years. Yeah, they laughed then too, you know. That just changed. Because that's what I believed. You know, I thought an addict was a person who put heroin in his arm. I didn't know no better. I'm from the South Bronx. You know, I knew that as long as I didn't put a needle in my arm, I was straight. Needless to say, I didn't share. I had a 30 Quaalude a day habit. You know, I had, you know, a cocaine habit. I used to drink Felipe Segundo. You know, in the morning, you know, it said liqueur, you know, for those of you, you know. I was a high bottom drinker, you know. I think I only had one bottle of that. The rest was Mad Dog 2020, you know. I could get a job at any circus with Thunderbird, you know. So, you know, my disease encompassed everything, and I played it to the max. You know, I came to that meeting and because I had truly believed that, you know. You know, and it's funny, this disease is so cunning and baffling. It tells me that when I started shooting dope, you know, I wasn't so bad, because I wasn't hitting myself in the neck. When I was hitting myself in the neck, I told myself I wasn't so bad because I wasn't hitting myself in the groin. When I was hitting myself in the groin, I was telling myself it ain't so bad because I'm not on 200 milligrams of methadone. This disease is cunning, is baffling. And you know the funny thing about that is that it ain't no different when I was out there, you know, putting my money in this little a bundle. I used to say, early in recovery, I used to say, yeah, I put it for a bundle. As the years in recovery and I got more honest, it was $8, you know. I hate honesty, don't you? But for years I said, yeah, I put a bundle, wait for my bundle to come down, this bucket going up this abandoned building, you know. And yeah, it was $8, you know, and some change. And there was no difference from that than when I was 9 years old, 10 years old, sniffing glue, you know, 11 years old, 13 years old, telling myself, now listen to this, dead of winter, New York City, 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm in bed, ready to sleep, 12, 13 years old, I can't go to bed unless I smoke a joint. So here I am now, dead of winter, I got to put some clothes on, go out and buy a loose joint. I was nickel and dime all my life. Go out and hustle to buy a loose joint. Because my head told me I couldn't go to bed unless I smoked this joint. So was there any difference between that and between doing heroin? You know, because we glorify heroin in these rooms, man. You know, we glorify the dope fiend and the this and the that and this guy and that guy. You know, and the third tradition tells me that I don't have to have done heroin to become a member of these rooms. You know, and I need to remember that in the spirit of unity, we are all equal. It don't matter what got us here. You know what? We're not interested in what or how much you used or who your connections were. You know, and I came into these rooms and a funny thing, you know, another thing we do is we tell ourselves, look for somebody you identify with when it comes to sponsorship. And I looked around, and at that time there was only one other Puerto Rican, you know, and you know, I met him, and then another Puerto Rican moved down from New York, and I met him, and then I go to Miami, but I was afraid of the Cubans, you know. You know? I remember that I went down there to start a traditions meeting, right? Boy, I had to get escorted out of that motherfucker. Woo! Them Cubans wanted to kill me, man, you know. And, you know, I was afraid. I was intimidated. You know, I was intimidated by people who had, you know, the well-to-do, you know, the people who were clean a few years and were well off and were this and that. And you know what I've learned? I've since come to learn is that nobody thought they were better than me, and nobody treated me any less than I was treated, and nobody felt that they were, you know, judged me in any way, is I felt I was less than you. You know, it had nothing to do with how you treated me. You know, the truth of the matter is I felt less than you. You know, so how could I go ahead and apply all these principles in my life and still believe that I'm less than anybody else, despite of how you live or what you do or how your things are? You know, and that's what I've come to terms with in this past year. You know, I've been through the thing. I had my sponsor, a guy that I didn't identify with. He was a biker, long hair, over 6 feet. I mean, he looked so tall to me back then. You know, tattoos all over. You know, I only got one tattoo, and it says Tiny's Pub. And and you know, it's like I didn't, and you know, I didn't identify with anything that this man had, but I knew that he had practiced some steps and traditions in my life, and I was so afraid. And I went to this man. I said, "Would you please guide me through these 12 steps?" And that was after 13 or 14 months of already working the steps my way. And when he agreed, then I got really scared. And this wonderful man loved me so much and so unconditionally, and he guided me through the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous, and he guided me through the traditions. And then he moved to Hong Kong. And talk about being pissed, you know. And he moved, and so now I'm on this journey again to find somebody else, because, you know, we got to get that perfect one, you know, because we're good judging characters. And, you know, and I found this other gentleman, and you know, it's crazy, because it's like, I remember when I would cop on 6th Street, and you know, when they were down, I had no problem going right down to, you know, Avenue B and 2nd and copping, you know. But now all of a sudden I'm cleaning a couple 2s and 3s, I'm washing, actually taking a shower, I'm wearing, you know, underwears now, you know, and you know, and clean ones, you know. So like I think I can make these wonderful decisions. And I went down to North Miami, and I went to a meeting down there, and I heard this guy talking about wanting to beat somebody up. And the little guy, you know, stocky, muscle-built guy, and I went to him after the meeting, after a few months of not having a sponsor, and I asked him to sponsor me. And he guided me through the 12 steps. A couple of years after that, he let me go as a sponsor because I was acting out on behaviors that were not acceptable in his eyes. And I was angry, I was hurt, you know, I felt abandoned, I felt judged. And I'm grateful for what he did to me that day, you know, because what it did, what it showed me is that, you know what, I am responsible for what I do in these rooms, and there is a price that I have to pay. Just because I'm clean and I'm up here, you know, 1 hour a day, living spiritually connected, you know, and doing what I got to do and sounding good and making y'all look good and feel good, you know, doesn't mean that I don't have to pay the price for the actions that I take. Because for a long time I believed that you can do whatever you want in these rooms as long as you don't pick up. And I lived with that farce, you know, that false sense of security for a lot of years in these rooms. And I went and I did that. You know, whatever you can, you know, whatever I had to do, as long as I didn't pick up, it was okay. I'm here to tell you that it's not okay. to do whatever you want to do in these rooms. It's not okay to lie, cheat, and steal. Kind of hard to live spiritually connected to a power greater than myself when I'm lying, cheating, and stealing. But I also need to tell you that, you know what? That was me yesterday. That ain't me today. You know? And, you know, this past year, man, it has been about my inventory. It has been about me. You know, it's been about how I have grown. You know, I don't cry anymore for any people that aren't in my life anymore, out of sadness, out of shame, out of guilt. You know, I still miss all these people that were in my life, you know, that were close to my heart, that were my, you know, my best friends. But I have no shame over any of my actions anymore, because I believe that I've been relieved of that. And real simply because I've changed a lot of those things that I had shame about. Funny how that works, you know. You know, my life has turned around, man. You know, like 3 months ago, man, I was on top of the world financially. You know, I mean, I had gone bankrupt and took care of some things, which, you know, it was good for me. You know, it's funny, when I went to, I battled with this for 1.5 years. I had all these bills and you know, and I had another home, and I had to do this, and I couldn't do that, and I, you know, through a series of events, you know, I got stuck with a lot of stuff, and I battled with it. You know, I came in here, and you know what? I had 2 shirts to wear. You know, my biggest decision was which shirt was I going to wear to go to a meeting. You know, and it was like, okay, that one smells good. You know, I'll wear that one. You know, and we come in here, and through the years of coming here and doing the right thing, and we acquire a few toys, you know, and a few things that, you know what, I needed. You know, my God loves me in his infinite wisdom. He gives me everything I need in order so that I could better do his work. And with the same token, he takes away everything that I need so that in order I can do his best work. Because what started to happen was my disease manifested in all these outside things. I went out and I bought a brand new home. I had it built from scratch. I used to go to meetings with the dirt, showing people, look at my land, look at my land. Because I thought that this brand new home would save my marriage. You know, little did I know that if I would have stopped lying, cheating, and stealing, maybe the marriage would have worked. You know, I went out and I remember, you know, in so many ways it's been blessings. I remember the first vehicle I bought. I had a brand new car, and I remember like leaving. I mean, my self-esteem was just so low, man. You know, I didn't know about any of this stuff. I didn't know about like being a productive member of society. You know, I've been with a company 11 years with one company. Picture that. You know, I couldn't keep a job 11 days, man, you know, let alone 11 years. And this was a company that trusted in me. They used to send me, you know, to all the different islands to represent them. And I remember the first time that I went to stay in a hotel, you know, they'd give me money to stay at the Ramada or, you know, a hotel like this. And I'd stay at the Jew Drop-In, you know, the one that leaves the lights out for you, you know. And I'd take the bulb on the way out because I needed it at home. And because I didn't feel I was worth any of that. If these people knew who I was, they would ask me to leave. You know, and I lived that for many, many years, man. You know, so I started acquiring a credit card here. I remember the truck, I drove out of the truck, out of the lot, and I said, man, let me get at least around the corner before they find out who I am and take this truck back from me. Because that's how I felt about myself, man. I had no healing. I had no love for me. You know, I had no forgiveness. I had nothing but shame, dishonesty, degradation. You know, I didn't deserve anything wonderful in my life. You know, I didn't deserve anything because I had no God. You know, I remember when I did my second step and I created the God of my understanding, forgiving was not on the list because not judgmental was on there. And if he doesn't judge me, he's got no reason to forgive me. And I started to practice the steps, and I started to look for all these, and I thought there was all these outside things. And I started to realize that the God of my understanding is a God that I have inside, that in order for me to get closer to him, maybe I have to practice some of these principles that he's teaching me. Maybe if I apply a little love in my life, maybe if I apply a little honesty in my life, maybe if I apply a little hope in my life, and actually take the faith and the work, and do the work that needs to be done, you know, that I might get closer to that God, that I might be okay with me a little bit more. You know, and I battled with these things, and I got all the credit cards, and I remember I was in the Bahamas, and I hadn't used my American Express card yet. You know, I could use your card. You know, I had no problem when I was using your card, but my own card, I didn't know, and I got on the phone, what do I do? Well, you get to the counter, and you thank you for your stay, and you give the lady your card, they give you a bill, you sign it, they run it through. And okay, great, I can do that. And I got downstairs and I forgot what she told me, you know, and I had to call again. I remember the first check I wrote. You know, it took me 5 years to get a checking account. You know, I was like that, you know, Cash Money, Dollar Lou all the time, you know. And I remember it was at Farmore. I can mention it because they're not in Florida anymore. And I wrote the check, and I don't even know how to shop. I used to buy sundries. Shower to shower, shaving cream, razors. I don't know how to buy anything for me. You know, I didn't know. So I would buy soap, shower to shower, razors. I didn't even know anything about cologne yet. This is you're clean. And, and, you know, some zoom, some yams, you know, little things keep me busy. And I remember I wrote that check and I was shaking and I didn't know, and I told the girl to do it, to write it for me. And I knew that, you know, they were going to stop me. You know, and I walked out, and you know how when you walk out and you know they're looking and your cheeks are real tight in your ass, and, you know what I'm saying? I was afraid, man. They were going to stop me. And it was a good check. And that's how much low self-esteem I had about myself. You know, that's how much I had degraded myself through all these years, man. I was reduced to the animal level. You know, it talks about that in our basic text, man. You know, and I was like that. You know, this past year, man, I've learned to heal from a lot of the grieving that I've gone through in the past few years. You know, and part of that healing, what's happened is it's relaxed me and it's calmed me down. You know, I've learned that I don't have to be the showboaty individual that that I've always been. I've learned that it's okay to be me. You know, I've accepted me for my faults. You know, as well as the good. And that's difficult, man, because I'm okay when you come up to me and say, you know what, you are no good. I can take that real well, you know, but God forbid you tell me, you know what, Louie, you're loving and you're caring, you know, and you're understanding, and I'm grateful you're in my life. I can't handle that, you know. I've learned to be okay with that today and to accept it, you know, because that's who I am today. You know, I'm not the liar, the cheat, and the thief that I've been for a lot of years in these rooms. You know, today I practice honesty in my relationship. You know, today I practice prudence. You know, today I practice these principles in my life. You know, I don't steal. You know, I don't, cheat today. You know, and I need to tell you that. And I need to own that. You know, and I need to continue practicing that. You know, and yeah, I went through some things today. You know, I've had to from 3 months ago, I've had to go to social services and get some help. You know, I've had no income for 2 months. I mean, my thing was shut down, to the max, man, and here I am, and again, this disease, this cunning is baffling, and it wants to shoot me down. I'm no good, I'm not worth it, 11 years clean, and I'm going to applying for food stamps, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and you know what, that's not the reality of it is. The reality of it is that I'm a human being, who came across a particular ailment, and I can't work anymore, and I have to apply to these things, and I'm real okay with that today. And I went to these agencies, and they treated me, man, like I was just so, and it's funny because I'm so far removed. I remember I remember being in the Bronx, and the lady that, the social worker, that would come around the block, and everybody would hide the TVs and the ironing boards, and, oh, the social worker's here, put everything away, everything in the closet, and my mother would borrow the kids from upstairs, and then we'd go up to borrow them, and, everybody, 18 children, and, and this is my brother, my sister, my father, one woman standing there, anyway, and the whole 9 yards. And I went to these agencies, and I poured out, everything. I mean, they asked me for my checkbook. I gave my checkbook. They asked me for this and this account and that account. And they were going to turn me down because I had cable TV. And I hate cable TV. And I went to this lady, and I said, man, you're making me feel like I'm and it's like, the old me would have oh, I don't have cable, I don't have a checking account, My wife isn't working, beat the system, beat the system. And I went in there like some geek, and that's the way I felt, man. Okay, what do I do? What do you want? And I didn't hide anything from this woman. And she like yelled at me like, oh, we're going to go ahead and pay this bill, but, we're upset. Oh, how do you think I feel? I told her, I looked at her card and it said social worker. It's like, you should be sending me to a 12-step fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. This is what people go into post office killing people for. My life has been turned around 180 degrees, and you're telling me about that you're upset with what I'm doing? Because I had cable 30 days ago? Because I had $6,000 go through my checking account last month? I don't have it this month? I mean, she totally, I says, you should be sending me to, therapy or something, Not that I'd go, but, you should be sending me there because this is the thing that turns people around and shoot people, Next thing you'll hear about me in the paper. He was a quiet guy, He used to do his landscaping. He would always walk his dogs, good neighbor Sam over here, And I was devastated, man, And right away, and you know what the beauty is? At no point did my disease tell me, well, let me go beat the system. I came home, I got on the phone, I shared with my sponsor, I shared how I felt, I shared with my wife, I put it in her hands now because she handles all that legal stuff, you know what I mean? She can go give him hell, And it's like at no time did I feel like, did I give this lady the power to make me feel like she wanted me to feel, and at no time did I want to resort to those old ways of lying, cheating, and stealing, and I haven't gone back, it's like, thank you very much, I'm real grateful for the opportunity you've given me, but you know what, I don't need to be treated like you're treating me, this is the reality, this is where it's at, I ain't giving up my cable, and this is the deal, But my life has been turned around, man. A month ago today, I was in something that I thought I'd never, ever, ever get into. I didn't think that I could even become that, and that was depressed. And I didn't know that I was in depression until I got out of it. I was on all these medications. I was on pain medications. I was on this one. I was on that one, and it's a real difficult time for me. To do these things by the book, to be, my body had no drugs in its system for many, many years, and here I go with all this toxic stuff, all these, these medical drugs for the virus, and then they gave me some antidepressants for the neuropathy, and stuff that I'd say I would never, the stuff that would goofballs I called them when I was out there using, and let me tell you, it's a horrible feeling to feel that way, and it's horrible to have to believe that I had to take these things in order to get better physically. And as a result of that doctor and this and that, man, I was depressed. And I didn't know that an addict in recovery can get depressed. But I'm here to tell you that, you know what, we're not above that, man. And I'm not above using, and I'm not above forgetting where I came from, and I'm not above throwing this way of life out the window. Because it came real close, and real subtle and real cunning and real baffling, man. And people were looking. I was going to one meeting a week maybe and sitting in the back and laying on the floor because I was in pain. I wasn't paying attention to nobody. And the funny thing, when people would come up to me with those, because y'all love me, you come with those sad puppy eyes, I would exaggerate my pain more. That's how cunning and baffling this disease is, man. And I would get 20 and 30 calls a day, and they were going for weeks, and then the calls started diminishing. Then it was 10 and 15, a day. Then it was like 10 and 5. And I remember on New Year's, the Jewish New Year, we went out, my wife and I went out to celebrate with the family, and it was 6 o'clock, and that was that Friday night, 6 o'clock. We got home about 11:30, and I said, I'm going to go check the messages. And there was no messages on my machine. From 6 o'clock on a Friday night to 11 o'clock that night. And it was at that moment that I said, holy cow, I'm alone. And I didn't say, and I said, why did the calls stop coming? Why isn't there a message on my machine? And I took a little inventory and I said, well, maybe because you haven't called anybody back, Louie. You know, we talk about like people not reaching out, or who don't reach out, or who does reach out and who does this. You know what? We got to take the action, man. You know, how many times can an individual call me and leave a message and want help or want to reach out, and I don't call that, you know. I mean, we have, you know, those issues in here too, and it don't matter how long we've been around. We get abandoned, we get afraid. We don't know how to handle, you know, illness. We don't know how to handle fear. We don't know how to handle loneliness, man. You know, and that's what was going on, man. And I met this individual that night at this at this dinner, and guy wasn't in the rooms, and he talked about the disease that I had physically, what I was going through, and he talked about the action that I had to take physically in order to get better. You know, and as a result of talking with this man, and you know what? Funny how it works. Actually picking up the phone, actually calling some people back, actually making amends. You know, and saying, you know what, hey, you know, I didn't call you. And like letting, like the guys that I sponsor, man, like, you know what, I've been in isolation, you know, I've been in fear, you know, I've been self-centered because I didn't care enough about you to return your call when you needed me. You know, and calling other people back and other friends and saying, you know what, you know, I appreciate your calling, and this and this and this is what was going on. And I'm being truthful, not saying that, you know, because you guys would co-sign anything I did. You would. That's how we are. Oh, it's okay, Louie. You know what? It's not okay, man. My disease of addiction doesn't know the difference from HIV or from dope or from anything. It wants to kill me. It wants me to be alone. It wants me to go out there and use. And if it can use a virus, and if it can use the health situation, and if it could use finances and romances, you know, it'll take me. Especially those romances. Oh. And I'm just talking about with the guys. Hello, Will. Will and I go way back. Oh, Louie, I want what you got. You have it, baby. You know, one thing I've learned is, come hell or high water, don't pick up. Come hell or high water, don't pick up. And I need to thank the guys that I sponsor that have carried me through this, you know. I need to thank my sponsor, who loves me unconditionally, right, wrong, or indifferent, you know. I need to thank my wife, you know, who's loving, who's caring, who's here. Because she's the one that's taking all the brunt of all my shit while you guys are home sleeping, you know. She was taking it. And this year has been a really good year for me. In that area of my life, and I've learned so much from my wife, you know, because she has shown me about unconditional love, you know, and she has shown me about responsibility, taking responsibility for my relationship, taking some of these traditions and applying them in our relationships. Picture that. The ultimate authority is a loving God, not Louie. You know, our common welfare comes first. Personal recovery depends on that unity. You know what, honey? Can we make this decision together? I'm not going to go ahead and just make this decision and take the action and do what I got to do. You know, I have to participate in my relationship. You know, and I've learned that this past year. You know, the only requirement for membership is you know, to be in my relationship is just a desire to be with each other. We don't have to be grandiose. You don't have to have, you know, the you know, all the glorious things that we think we need. I don't need you to validate me anymore. I want you to share my life with me today. And that's been a gift. It's been a wonderful time, man. I mean, I look at this Thursday night, you know, and look how packed this room is, man. You know, and I've gotten, like, you know, all my friends, and Gary 6 times, and Philip 1 time, and Mandy 2 times, and Gary, and Philip, and Mandy. And, you know, these are the people that have guided me through this. All I have is just for today. You know, I've been clean since July of 1985, and that's a long time. And we need to say that, you know, because we need to know that there are people here that, you know what, can go through things in life and still stay clean. You know, because we always focus on the guy who doesn't use, you know, who uses and who relapses and who does this and who does that, instead of focusing on the good in these rooms and the love. You know, we always focus on the things that we don't like and the judgments that we make on people, instead of focusing on the good in someone. And I've learned that this year. I don't want to forget Dino either. You know, guys that come out of the woodwork, that enter your life out of the blue, you know, and give you the courage to go on, in spite of what they're going through, you know, and what you're going through. You know, there are a lot of important people in my life, man. You know, my family right up here, Fred, you know, who, like, loves me so much, you know, and, like, and it blows me away, man. Because, you know, 11 years ago I was walking these streets up here and I wasn't loved. I didn't love me, and I didn't love anybody. Nobody loved me. And I was running the streets with Katie, you know, ripping and running just down here, man, not loving each other. You know, today I don't have to rip and run these streets, man. You know, today I don't have to do that, man. You know, people fighting to sit in the front, to do this, to do that. Save me a seat, do this, do that. People calling me all day today. I had 18 calls today. Are you nervous? You know, are you this? You know, everybody, they want how I should dress, how I shouldn't dress, what should I talk about, what I shouldn't talk about. I should have just let everybody come up here and tell my story, you know. It would have been the same. You know, the love that we have in these rooms, man. You know, this things, we're like little kids. Oh, a condom. Can I have that, please? Hi, honey. I have to be responsible today, too. We're here to learn how to live with the disease of addiction. That's what I come here for. That's the disease that's going to kill me. That's the disease that tells me I can't take these 20 pills today that are going to save my life because I can't swallow all these. But I got to remember when I used to take 30 Quaaludes in one clip at no time. This is the disease that tells me I can't get on my knees because I got 11 years now and I don't have to pray to nobody, you know, and I don't have to get humble. But I remember when I was throwing my wife up against the wall because she was digging in my area of the rug, getting on her knees looking for that rock. See, I didn't do crack. I freebased. There's a difference. Yeah? Oh, all right, okay. That's how cunning and baffling this disease is. I was clean a short months, and I saw that billboard on 95, that new dark Bacardi that came out. I hadn't tried it yet. I went to a meeting. Oh, you don't understand? It's a Puerto Rican thing. I gotta drink it. You know, that's how cunning and baffling this disease is. This disease of addiction is the one that tells me to go ahead and go through that McDonald's when I know I can't eat those bipodics. It ain't the HIV. It ain't the racist or the this or the that. You know, it's the disease of addiction. It's the disease of addiction that tells me, oh, I can't go to a meeting in that neighborhood. Excuse me. That's how cunning and baffling this disease is. It's my disease of addiction that tells me, you know, I don't feel good tonight. I think I don't want to go to a meeting. Melrose Place is on. 90210. And the new one now, Savannah. So I gotta get in touch with my past. We come here to laugh. We come here to cry. You know, we come here to heal. Through the steps of Narcotics Anonymous, through the love that you people have shown me, you know, I'm able to be standing up here today, doing what I do best, you know, talking about Narcotics Anonymous. Because this ain't about me. It's about the God of my understanding and how he uses me to get to you, you know, so that maybe you could hear something, so that maybe I could hear something. Because this ain't about me today. It's about Narcotics Anonymous. And NA works. Look at it. NA works, man. So when tonight, when they have the marathon meeting and you're there after the dance at 3 o'clock talking about you don't need to be in a relationship because you couldn't pick nobody up at the dance. It's okay to be with me today, you know? Out there popping your coochie and shit, you know? Girls looking at you like you're crazy. Just remember that we have to go through our process, and whatever it is, love yourself enough. You know, I got to remember that I just got to like not pick up just for today, and the God of my understanding is going to work through you, through basic text, through a power greater than myself, through some reading, through some literature. Whatever he puts in front of me is a power greater than me. You know, sometimes it's my wife, sometimes it's my sponsor, sometimes it's him, sometimes it's the steps. Whatever it takes, so that I don't use just for today, you know, that's the gift that Narcotics Anonymous has given me. That's the gift that my higher power has given me. You know, he's separated me from everybody else. He separated me from the active addict. You know what? Today he's given me a choice. What a wonderful gift. To have the choice. Wow, I never had a choice before. They told me 2 dopes and a Coke, Lou. That's straight. Get on this methadone clinic. You know, do this, do that. You know, I never left 14th Street. I didn't know anything about Uptown. You know what I'm saying? You know, I have a choice today. And that's a wonderful gift that Narcotics Anonymous has given me through the 12 steps and the traditions. Picture that. You got a choice. I can go away today. I don't have to take homes anymore. I can travel today. I can drive today. You know, I can leave the country today. You know? Love yourself, man. Love yourself enough to let this miracle happen in your life. You know, it continues to happen in mine. We talk about the magic begins. It begins right here, right now. It begins every morning when I wake up. And I'm alive, and I'm clean, and I'm not running to the methadone clinic, and I'm not running to go buy a bottle, and I'm not running at 3 o'clock in the morning to go buy a loose joint because my head tells me I can't sleep. That's when the magic begins. When I walk into a meeting and somebody I don't know gives me a hug and says, welcome, that's when the magic begins. When I pick up that white chip and I surrender to the disease and say, oh my God, maybe, just maybe, this can work, that's when the magic begins. When we see a guy pick up 1 year cleaning, we say, wow, 1 year, wow, and he tells how he did it, that's when the magic begins. Many, many ways that the magic begins. Let's give ourselves a break and let's give ourselves the time that we need so that we can in order for us to see this magic, you know, apparent in our own lives. Because I can see it in you, but when I see it in me is when it's truly a gift. Because that's when I've truly surrendered to the spirit of Narcotics Anonymous and the love and the unity that you guys have given me. God bless you. I love y'all.